All right, we're going to go ahead and get started on our media availabilities for the day. We are now joined by Ryan Blaney, driver of the number 12 Team Penske Ford. If you have a question, raise your hand and we'll get you a wireless mic. We'll start back here.
Rob T. Youngson from the podiumfinish.net. Ryan, it looks like you're going to be making your 300th start in the NASCAR Cup Series, so kind of a twofold question for you. What does it mean for you to get this far in your Cup career, given what you and your family have accomplished in NASCAR? And secondly, what has Team Penske given to you that's enriched your life and career?
Yeah, it's hard to believe it's been 300 already. It seems like just yesterday we were at Kansas in 2014, and it's been a fun ride. Got to drive for a lot of great people, from Penske to the Wood Brothers family, and a lot of paths crossed, which has been really special. So yeah, definitely wouldn't have thought I would be here. I did an interview with someone from NASCAR, and they told me how many my dad had. I think that'll be a more kind of eye-opening day if I get to have more starts than my dad did. But yeah, Penske's been. Obviously, I owe them the world when I walked in their doors in 2012, and we're sitting here today. So, like I said, just great people, great opportunities. Very fortunate to get those opportunities, and lucky that we've found some decent success. And so, yeah, it's definitely gone by very quickly. That's for sure.
Jerry
Jordan, kickingthetires.net. And you got a couple of things here. You got to make the next round, but this is a troublesome round for some. But a lot of people are saying that you should thrive in this particular round with here and at Talladega coming up. Your thoughts going into next week, and after, going into this week's one thing, but next week and the week after seem to be the chaotic parts of this one.
Yeah, it is. I think each round has their certain tracks about them that make them kind of unique. And I look at this round. It's definitely probably the more unique round, having three very different racetracks. With here and Talladega and then the Roval. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think you can pick this guy's a favorite at Talladega, right? I mean, you just never know what can happen there. I feel like I'm getting shorter. I feel like this chair has got no hydraulics either. I'm gonna start really high and I'm gonna end up down low, but. Yeah, I mean, we've had good runs at Talladega, but you just never know what can happen. I think the best thing that we've talked about for that race is just go try to control it like we've been in the past. Try to get a few of our cars up there and kind of control the front of the pack, and hopefully you can maintain that. We kind of see it's difficult to go from the back to the front now at speedways, so you try not to bury yourself. So. But it starts off with a good run here, in a place, racetracks where we've lacked a little speed on the mile and a half recently. We're coming here with some new stuff that hopefully plays out for us. Try to kick the round off, on the right foot. This place was a wild race here last year, for sure, and I don't think you'll see as much tire issues this year. But, yeah, we'll see. Just try to take it one race at a time and, hope our stuff, we find a little speed here and there. Especially if you get to the round 8, if you can make it past this round, you really have to perform at those three tracks in the round of 8, and but try to get there first. So we'll see.
What is the dynamic at Penske right now? No one would have expected Joey to be out in the first round, and you battling to make to the next round. You guys were considered some of the better drivers throughout the season. How has they rallied around you to kind of push you forward to carry the torch?
Yeah, it was a shame that the 22 group got knocked out last week. Those guys just had an unfortunate situation happen and just barely missed it. So yeah, I don't think anyone thought that group, defending champs, were going to get knocked out, early. But I think it's you try to make it as positive as you can in our group. All right, maybe that group can try some stuff for next year, try some stuff for these tracks in the round of 8 if we can get there. So I think we do a good job of teamwork at the Penske shop of, crews working together, drivers working together, and always trying to look for the future. So we'll see. You just try to make the best of situations, and hopefully we have a plan to do that. There's like bumps that it keeps going down, but
Okay,
I'll
Bob.
work my way back up if I have to.
Bob Hockers, Fox Sports. Will you know if there's going to be tire issues after this short practice session? And last year it seemed it took a little bit longer than maybe what you would have to know.
Yeah, I don't think you'll have like a good idea, like you said, after practice, because I feel like, last year in the race it was more laps on tires, some kind of heat cycles. I think we saw that last year of, you got guys with low air or aggressive cambers, and they will run a little bit and kind of beat the tire up and almost crack them, like they crack the sidewall and the tread of them, and then when they cool off and heat back up, they're damaged, and then they have problems. I don't think in practice you won't get a good idea. I know Goodyear came with a new durability tire. Hopefully it plays out. I don't think we've seen as much tire issues this year as we had last year, but this is a funky place. The ends being so different, 3 and 4 being super rough. And for you to be low in 1 and 2, you're going to be super low in 3 and 4, and you're going to be hitting the racetrack and pounding tire and hitting limiters and stuff like that, and that just kind of abuses them. So I don't know if you'll have a huge idea after practice, but hopefully there's not as much issues as last year, and if there is, you hope you're not one with the problems. So.
All right, back here.
Steven Stump, frontstretch.com. Ryan, as you mentioned, a bit of a struggle for Team Penske in the intermediates, but we're going to Texas. Given how much track position matters here, is this a 1.5 miler where even if you guys don't necessarily have the speed, you guys can still, compete, maybe even win with a good pit strategy?
Yeah, you never know. I mean, you never know how this race plays out. Different mileage than years past. 400 miles here this weekend. So, you saw it last year a lot. You've seen it here in the past, a lot of different pit strategies, especially if you get that odd caution, 20, 15 laps before end of a stage. I think you got a lot of teams that are out of the playoffs that are going to flip it to get track position, and that puts teams that are in a spot to get stage points that are in the playoffs in a tough spot, right? What do you chase? Do you chase points and then try to rally back? Do you chase the win and try to flip it? I think it just kind of depends on who you're racing, and you can judge, and it's also what speed do you have in your car? Do you think you have a winning car, that has the speed to win? All right, then maybe you might definitely flip it and play for that one. So I think it just kind of depends how cautions fall. You have all these plans in place, but they can kind of get thrown out the window really quickly, and you have to improvise. And I feel like teams are really good at improvising and making calls on the fly, and you just hope you hit it right. You never know exactly how you're going to hit it, but you try to make the best gut call that you can at the time, and whether it plays out for you or not, that's just kind of the way things go. You just hope it does play out for you well.
Pit strategies can get shuffled a lot, but is this, even then, is it still kind of like, is this still a track or race, especially being 400 miles now, where if you say qualify, say 30th, it's kind of like something you may not be able to recover from?
Yeah, if you do qualify back there, you like to have the mindset that you can recover from it. It is going to be tough for sure recovering from there, especially at a place like this to where it's not as wide as like a Kansas, right? To where you have options. But yeah, I mean, a lot of how you qualify today, that will eliminate or open up a lot of different opportunities for your strategy of what you've talked about. So you kind of go off of that qualifying. So yeah, it's super important to qualify here, qualify well here. It just makes your race a lot easier. It makes your start of the day way easier. Yep.
All right, and then to Holly.
I'm sorry, that is pretty funny.
Well, I'm 0 for 2 on chairs. I just swapped these. I might have to try that. But.
And Holly Kane with the NASCAR Wire Service. You mentioned this earlier, but it definitely feels like this season there isn't necessarily some clear-cut championship favorite. Is that kind of how, is that a fair statement to make? And, even the 4 people technically below the cutoff line now are, 14 points out. It's still very tight. Do you get that kind of vibe from this season as well?
Yeah, a little bit. I feel like there's a couple teams that, you realize they've run probably the best this year, right? And I kind of look at, the 24 group, the 5 group, and the 19 group too. I think they've probably been the 3 best drivers and teams this year. Most success, kind of always have speed. The 5 was super impressive in the first round. Their speed was ridiculous, and their I think their average finish was like 2.5. So they're obviously a huge. They're running really good right now. So, but yeah, you try not to look at championship favorites. You know, I mean, you just try to understand what the spot you're in and go run well week in and week out. And these cars are so finicky, you know, that someone can go on a run, for a month and find something and stuff like that. I look at Roush and what they did. RFK, they found something and boom, they were running right up front, winning races, just like that. So it's just you never know when things can hit. So it is hard. Your comment of not really having a championship favorite. I look at more consistency like all year of how people run, but what RFK did, that can happen to anybody. So you just hope that you do it at the right time. So.
All right, and then up front, and then to Dustin.
Jeff Watkins, Race Week. You're talking about like the Fords as a whole have kind of struggled this whole year, but what does that say about you and your team that y'all are still around in the playoffs currently?
Yeah, I feel like in the beginning of the year, with the new nose we had at the Ford camp, it took everyone a while to kind of get used to it and figure out what we needed to do to kind of optimize, where our aero balance was. And I feel like we had a good handle on it. And obviously we hit it in May at Charlotte and then weren't really able to hit it. And then, RFK finding the speed they did there towards the end of the regular season was really impressive. So, I mean, it shows me that it's out there. You can find it. It's just a matter of getting everything, perfect and being able to compete. I feel like our window of success is a little smaller than others as far as, Chevys and Toyotas. So I feel like they have a bigger box of going into the weekend and maybe they're a little bit off, but they're still competitive enough to run top 5 and then you can work on it. I feel like our window's just been a little smaller this year to where we have to be a little bit more perfect than everybody else to compete. So, but like we can do it. I mean, it's there. You can definitely make it happen. So just really good job the first round by our group of not having any mistakes, huge mistakes that's taken us out and being resilient. And I think that goes a long way.
And you've had like a couple of pretty hard wrecks this year, especially that one in Daytona looked pretty hard too. Could you talk about the recovery after that wreck, like the week following, and just kind of your process through that?
Yeah. To Nashville and Daytona, definitely a couple of the hardest hits I've had in my career in anything. And I would say the Nashville wreck, the recovery from that one was definitely harder than Daytona because it was more kind of mental and kind of head stuff going on. So that was a tougher recovery period. Daytona, I was just sore. I was super sore till about Friday morning before Darlington. It was nice we had Sunday off. I never moved on Sunday. I got off the couch to go to the bathroom. That was about it. And just tried to recover the best I could. But I would much rather have body soreness than kind of mental fogginess and the struggles that I had there after Nashville. So, definitely unfortunate, those races. But luckily was still able to race the next week. I think that was the biggest thing is you're able to go to the track the next week and be able to compete. And I think that speaks a lot with what we do at our race shop for driver safety in the car and what NASCAR has done to kind of push the safety forward in this car. So, those things happen and they're unfortunate. But, I think the back end of it is you learn from them and you try to be better as a sport, right? Whether it's the car or what we do at the race shop to try to get me safe and driver safe. So, unfortunate things, but I think positivity comes out of them.
Dustin?
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Ryan, one forecast calls for the temperature to be about 100 degrees at race time tomorrow. Feel like 109 degrees. At what point is it too hot to compete, and what are the precautions you're taking this weekend?
I don't know if it's too hot to compete. I don't know if you got people passing out. I guess when the temperature's that high, I worry more for people in the grandstands. Them sitting out in the sun all day and stuff like that. That concerns me more than me being in the car because as drivers we understand you're going to have days like this. You're going to have hot race days and you just know that what you do and you rely on what you do as far as prep work training, hydration, that stuff's going to work no matter if it's 110 or if it's 50 degrees, So I don't really change up what I do. I've never really had an issue too much. I think it's tougher for the people watching the race outside in the heat. I think it's a little bit more difficult for them. But yeah, for us, for me personally, I think it's part of the job.
Part of the job is quite a unique description. I mean, to be sitting in a car that I'm assuming is going to be 125, 130 degrees. I know you got a cool suit, but what is that like? Are there challenges, or that's the day at the office for you?
Yeah, it's honestly it's just the day at the office, and just the heat's turned on, I mean or the AC's broke, I mean it's just one of those things. So it's one of those things where you don't think about when you're racing, right? When it's green, you're running, you're not thinking about how hot it is or whatever. Now if you have a red flag and you're sitting there baking in this oven, you're like, all right, it's pretty hot. Or pre-race, you're already sweating. Okay, it's hot outside. But when you get in the car and you get in the mindset of competing, those things kind of fade away, and you focus on the job and try to do your best. So, just one of those things. Yep.
All right, any final questions? Thank you, Ryan. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.